Okay, so what have we today? Well, as you can see, we have the Anzac Infantry by Matchbox. Anzac, of course, meaning Australian New Zealand Army Corps, which consisted of, as the name suggests, troops from the Dominion nations of Australia and New Zealand who committed troops to the British war effort during the First and Second World Wars. So, what we have here, as usual, is a lovely piece of artwork by Doug Post, one of his better ones, I think. I like the drama that's sort of displayed here. You have the NCO waving, you have the radio operator calling something in, and you have people firing into what I presume is the jungle. Very sort of a Pacific sort of scene there. What I do find curious is how puzzled the chap leading the mule, or pack horse mule, I suppose, is in the rear there. He doesn't look too concerned, just kind of wondering when the next bus is coming along to take him out of it. But anyway, so typical artwork of the time and of Doug Post and all that. Lovely, nice depictions there. The box itself on the side, as usual with Matchbox, you have pictures displaying the contents which will be contained within. So you have there your various poses just depicted there on the side there. It gives you a bit of a painting indication as well, as always. So there's some of the poses there. And the other end of the box then, you get a few other guys depicted here. The riflemen firing their SMLE, what's that, number 1 Mark III or number 1 Mark III Star, probably Lithgow, probably. Lee Enfield rifles, and the chap on the radio there, desperately calling in assistance or something. On the back we have, as usual, a painting guide, and the paint numbers are there as well. There you go. That's the back of the box there. Interestingly, here the kind of picture box kind of end of it here, the figures displayed here in the window box, should I say, it's actually a photograph, strangely enough, as opposed to being an actual window box, and it depicts the troops in a brown plastic. Strange enough, the troops came in a green. There's just some of them there, all painted up. Here's one of the unpainted figures in the green plastic. They all come in a lighter green plastic, of which I have none left because, as you can see, I painted most of them. And they came in a sort of a brown as well, depicted there. So that's those lads. What else have we here for you? Okay, as usual with the Revell releases, we also have a box here. Okay, Revell Box again. I'm not overly fond of the artwork, although this is too bad. In fairness, it's kind of reminiscent of the original. Same figures depicted there, except the Vickers is in there as well. Bit of action going on there. That's not too bad now, in fairness. So I must admit I can't fault it too badly. Usual story with Revell. Give it a little bit of a blurb on the side as to what was what the situation was. Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, Anzac, Army Corps of the British Empire Forces, etc., etc. Fought in Greece and all that. What else have we got on the back here? Painting guide. Slightly different paint guide to the Matchbox one, although it was the Matchbox colours that I use myself. There's the figures, or the paints that denote there on that side of the box. So looking good there, not so bad. But nice to see that Revell, as I said before in other videos relevant to the Matchbox range, have released over the last few years pretty much they have released all the 1/76 scale figures, including the NATO paratroops, which we will do at some point. The Anzac Infantry were actually the last, sadly, of the World War II figures that Matchbox released. They were indeed the second last range of figures, the last being the aforementioned NATO paratroopers, who we will get to at a later date. I said at one point I wasn't going to do the NATO paratroopers, but I decided I will because there will be some conversions involved, which may be of interest to you. The Sprue, of course, is the same because they've used molds. So here we have the Sprues. See there, it's kind of a brown plastic. Not the same as this brown, which is an original, but hey, doesn't really matter. So as usual, you have the various bits and pieces that are there. There's your mule, there's your mortar, very basic Matchbox mortar as always. And what have you? You also have your Vickers is on here somewhere. I can't see it down the bottom there, just into my thumb. So you get 2 Vickers machine guns and 1 mortar. I always like when they give 2 Vickers with the sets. It's cool, pretty cool. 2 mortar would have been nice, but hey, there you go. Only get one. And there's the Mortar up there on the left underneath the NCO waving. So let's have a look at some painted figures then, shall we? So here we go as usual with my painted figures. A little disclaimer to say that I am not the world's greatest figure painter by any stretch of the imagination. However, in the front here, as you can see, we have the officer chap. Of all the poses, he's the one I like least. Kind of looks like a lad who was running for the bus and has suddenly realised he recognises someone on the other side of the street and is giving a dramatic wave. As these figures are sculpted to kind of mainly look like jungle figures rather than Australian or New Zealand troops involved in the Mediterranean or Grecian campaigns. I wouldn't imagine doing too much running, but and again with the pistol drawn and the holster on the side, kind of marks him out as an officer. So in reality, probably wouldn't have been attired as such, but you never know. Again, they all have the Australian slouch hat. Typical of manufacturers of the period, they would just use headgear to denote particular types. So, for example, the Australians, you can see, have this particular headgear, whereas maybe the commandos had the comforter cap and so on. Various poses, plenty of poses in fairness. You get the guy lying down here, as you can see, firing his rifle. This one is actually one from my childhood collection, this little lad here. So that's a good 30-something years old. In the rear here we have the mule and the guy leading the mule, which I haven't painted because I don't really have a need for them for wargaming purposes. But I actually think I will paint it up just for completion's sake. You have the radio operator there. I always like this figure, actually think it's quite well done. Not sure if the radio is a very good representation of any particular World War II radio set, but it does the job, I think. In the rear there with him, you also have Bren Gunner in the prone position, who's reaching back for an extra mag, which I think is a nice pose. There you go. Interestingly enough, he seems to have the barrel of his Bren rested on a tree stump, oddly enough, rather than a bipod, but hey, you know, it's a sculpting necessity, I'm sure, rather than stylistic. This figure, quite nice, very well sculpted actually, if you can see the detail on the arm and on the trousers there, quite good. All the uniforms are actually quite good here. Gives the real dishevelled, jungle, sweaty kind of a appearance. I like this figure now, in fairness, when he's painted up, it looks quite well. I wasn't going to paint it at all, but I decided he might be good as an NCO from a wargaming's perspective, or that. So, or a commanding officer, should I say. That's the other officer there. You have your guy with the later issue Thompson machine gun, without the forward foregrip as depicted in the Airfix set, as opposed to the Matchbox. That's that lad. We have this lad here who fell down on us. Guy again running. I'm not sure how much chance you get to run in a jungle, but still quite a nice pose. A little bit slender maybe, but pretty much okay. Bases are very thin, but as always, I based them on beer mats, so kind of thickens them up and gives them a little bit more stability. Some people put washers or coins down just to give them a bit of weight, but I don't really find a need that. They seem to work okay for me. Chap with the rifle and bayonet in a kind of a ready position at waist level. Quite nice looking as well. Good figures. Bren Gunner, again. That's kind of a typical pose that you see from photographs of the period. Of a guy walking through the jungle or a jungle path with the Bren slung in that position. Not something I'd want to do myself, carry a Bren around all day in that kind of heat and humidity. I've handled a Bren a few times, never fired one now admittedly, but can't remember the exact weight of them, but they're considerable enough. I'm a fairly big lad and I'd throw it around easily enough, but I wouldn't want to carry it all day. So that's the Bren. What else have we got? Lad advancing, the rifle is sort of a ready position, bayonet fixed, nice pose as well. I like the way that the folds in the trousers are quite natural looking. Again, I give them the basic colours as recommended in the box. It's kind of my, I just traditionally do that just to use the original colours recommended. I know there's loads of other colour schemes out there for these type of things, but I just like to use the old ones for sentimentality's sake and give them a rub of Newland or Null and Oil by Citadel. And that's it, job done. Nothing fancier than that. There's a lad advancing again, slightly more energetic pose. The bayonet in that position, ready to do someone an injury, presumably some, as far as a Japanese chap. You have your rifleman in both the standing and kneeling poses there. Quite nice, actually. Lovely detail for such small figures, I must say. They really turn out well. I like to see the pattern, 37 pattern webbing represented there, but also bandoliers, extra bandoliers of ammunition. Quite a nice little addition to the sculpt. There's your kneeling guy as well. That's quite a nice little pose. Who else is here? Then we have this guy chucking a grenade. One of the few Matchbox lads to have a weapon when he's handling a grenade. Also, this is a curious pose. He seems to be almost bowling the grenade, or maybe he's throwing it downhill or into a enemy position. It's a good pose, though. In fairness, not one of my favourites in the range, but at the same time, it's actually quite well executed. And here we have one of these type of guys. I always call these kind of guys NCOs. Whether it's correct or not, I don't know. But from a wargaming perspective, I think that they're useful as that to represent that, because they have a submachine gun rather than a standard rifle. But I think it's a nice lively pose. I think it really does conveys a lot. In fairness, I think it's a good sculpt. Now at the back here, what do we have? Mortar. You only get one mortar and one mortar crewman, which is this lower guy here. Now I've utilised, because I've had a few spare boxes here and there, about equivalent quantities. I've utilised the lad who is actually from the Mule set, for want of a better term. Here he is in here again. Unpainted. Painted him up and stuck him on a base on a beer mat to operate as the second mortar personnel there. So that's that. Here we have Vickers machine gun. I have used the crawling lad there as the assistant in that instance. You might notice I have two Vickers here in this particular set. So what's the difference? Well, the difference itself is actually the gun. I only had one Vickers for my Matchbox guys, so I had to go trolling the internet to find a suitable match. So this came from a company called Sergeant's Mess, who I'll give you a bit more information on in another video. But kind of a white metal Vickers works very well. I've actually used a few of them on other stands for Appreciate the Army and that, which I'll show in another video. Again, another Matchbox release. So the Vickers, quite good. I quite like them, to be honest with you. As regards size comparisons to other brands, I'll just bring the Vickers back out there again, because that's what we're going to do. Here's an Airfix Australian, a similar pose. You'll see there they match up quite well, actually. I even find the Australians are a little bit smaller, but again, they're quite well sculpted. Once I have these guys painted up, we'll do a review on those for you also. And the Revell, again, that argument. So Vickers, so you can see slightly larger, just to beware if these things are of concern to you. If you're, what do we call it in kit construction terms, if you're a rivet counter, if you don't like deep trench panels on planes and you like your soldiers to all be of a similar size, just be careful that the Matchbox are 176 and quite nicely done in 176 they are, but they are a little bit smaller than some of the other ranges that will be out there. So that is basically what we have in terms of the Matchbox figures. Here's the box again, just to finish up with the picture of the actual artwork. Matchbox, delighted to see that again, that Revell released them. Lovely additions to any collection. As usual, the Matchbox range are my favourite, and I just couldn't fault them, to be honest. We will have some other Matchbox videos coming up fairly soon, and then once we get out of the Matchbox range, we will be doing some other stuff for you, including some kits, which one or two might be Matchbox, I have to admit. But for the moment, signing off with wishing you the best of luck, and we shall talk to you again fairly soon. All the best. Bye-bye.